Lindsay, ready? Council meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome. Let the roll reflect. We do have a quorum with the absence of Council Member House. Tonight we recognize Make Music Day in the city of Hastings, and we have a proclamation to read, and Councilmember Pemble, would you please start?
Certainly. Whereas the city of Hastings has declared Sunday, June 21st as Make Music Day, and
whereas this is the 10th year the city of Hastings Parks and Recreation Department has celebrated Make Music Day. Make Music Day is a free celebration of music around the world on June 21st, beginning in 1982 in France, and is now held on the same day each year in more than 1,000 cities in 120 countries. And
whereas the purpose of Make Music Day is to encourage and invite Hastings residents and visitors to celebrate by enjoying free performances, cultivating civic pride and a sense of community, and
whereas Make Music Day 2026 will be held from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. at Levy Park, with host sites including Pleasant Hill Library at 10 a.m. and the YMCA at 11 a.m., and the full schedule can be found on the City of Hastings webpage and social media platforms. And
whereas in case of inclement weather, Make Music Day will be canceled at Levy Park, and updates will be shared on our city website and city Facebook page. And
whereas local and metro area bands and soloists will donate their performances and volunteers will donate their time to help provide sound support and MC the event. We want to especially thank Chuck Spavin for ongoing support and the role as lead volunteer for the event. The City of Hastings is appreciative of these civic-minded performers and volunteers to help make this event possible. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Mayor Mary Fassbender, and the Hastings City Council do hereby declare June 21st, 2026 as Make Music Day in Hastings, Minnesota. Thank you, Council. And if you have never been, it's a great day to start the summer off. That's for sure. First day of summer. Also, tonight is always an exciting day as we have promotions and swearing in. And tonight we will have Police Department promotion and swearing in by our Chief, Kyle Lynch. Chief?
Can you hear me okay? All right. Mayor Fassbender, council members, and city leaders, tonight I have the honor of introducing to you and administering the oath of office to Sam Boyk, who accepted the role of commander, and Paul Young, who accepted the role of sergeant. Tonight's swearing in of these two gentlemen gives me great pride and excitement for the future of our department, and we're continuing with your support to develop strong leaders to ensure the safety and security of our great city now and in the future. So Sam and Paul, will you guys please take a step forward here, and I'm just going to give some highlights of their background and experience. So Sam, Commander Boyk, graduated from Prior Lake High School in 2007. In 2009, he earned his associate's degree in law enforcement from Alex Tech. And in 2011, he earned a bachelor's degree in law enforcement and political science from Mankato State University. In 2012, he began his police career in Huron, South Dakota. He worked there as a police officer until 2018 when he joined Hastings Police Department. And The first 2 years, he held the rank of patrol officer until 2020, and then in 2020, he was promoted to sergeant and maintained that role until recently when he accepted the commander position. He has experience as a SWAT operator, field trainer, firearms instructor, special response team medic, and defensive tactics instructor. Sergeant Young graduated from North St. Paul High School in 2007. He also, in 2009, earned an associate's degree in law enforcement from Alex Tech. I forgot to ask, were you guys classmates? All right. In 2019, Sergeant Young earned a bachelor's degree from St. Mary's University in criminal justice, and then again in 25, a bachelor's degree in criminal justice leadership, also from St. Mary's University. He began his career in 2009 in Mountrail County Sheriff's Office in North Dakota, and then in 2009, he transferred to Ely Police Department, where he worked as a police officer until 2014, when he came to join Hastings Police Department. During his time here, some highlights, and by the way, none of this captures the magnificence that these two gentlemen offer, but these are just some of the highlights. From 2018 to 21, Sergeant Young served as an investigator with our investigative division. He is currently our reserve liaison. He's a field trainer and has directly impacted and influenced a great number of people who are currently working for our department. And then in 2022, he joined a very admirable, and we're very proud of him for that too. So, gentlemen, if you would please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Sam Boyd,
Do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and the ordinances of the City of Hastings.
and the ordinances of the City of Hastings,
And Commander Boyk, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of a police commander.
that I will faithfully discharge the duties of a police commander,
And Sergeant Young, that I will faithfully discharge the duties of a police sergeant.
That I will faithfully discharge the duties of a police sergeant
For the City of Hastings, counties of Dakota and Washington, and State of Minnesota,
for the cities of Hastings, counties of Dakota and Washington, and the state of Minnesota,
according to the best of my judgment and ability.
according to the best of my judgment and ability.
On my honor, I will never betray my badge, my integrity, my character, or the public trust.
On my honor, I will never betray my badge, my integrity, my character, or the public trust.
I will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable for our actions.
I will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable for our actions.
I will always uphold the Constitution, my community, and the agency I serve.
I will always uphold the Constitution, my community, and the agencies that I serve.
So one of the most well-known symbols of policing is the badge. It's a modern-day representation of shields that protectors throughout history used while watching over their respective communities. And although the weight of our badge, the actual weight of our badge is minimal, the responsibilities that come with it are enormous. And those that wear it carry the responsibility to do what is right and just for the people and visitors of Hastings, and it's one that every officer in Hastings wears with great pride. So tonight, the badge will be pinned on Commander Boyk by his wife Megan, and the badge will be pinned on Sergeant Young by his wife Felicia. Ladies, if you would step forward, please. Go ahead, you can pin. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you to Sam, and thank you to Paul. We are so appreciative of what you do for our community. Kelly?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'd like to welcome Isabella to join me. I don't have a badge for you. Come on up. Originally from Minnesota, Isabella returns home after spending the past 8 years in Phoenix, Arizona, where she built an extensive career in the public sector communications. Most recently, she served as communications administrator for the Arizona Barbering and Cosmetology Board, helping guide the successful merger of 2 state boards while establishing branding, communication standards, and organizational consistency. Prior to that, she led communication efforts for the mayor and city council in Chandler, Arizona, and served as a public information officer for the Arizona Department of Economic Security, supporting communications for a wide variety of programs, including hunger assistance, domestic violence services, refugee resettlement, adult protective services, and child support services. Isabella, her husband, and their dog, Kobe, relocated back to Minnesota in December 2024 and welcomed their son, Everett, in May of 2025. She's excited to be back near family and friends and look forward to continuing her communications career while serving the Hastings community. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Corey Likes. I'm the Operations and Maintenance Supervisor for the City of Hastings Parks Department. The City of Hastings Parks Department is pleased to welcome Matt Meyer to our team. Matt started his journey with us way back in 2020 as a part-time seasonal employee. As time went on, it was clear Matt had determination about him to work here someday full-time. Matt brings youth, drive, determination, and many more attributes that make him a great fit for our team. When Matt's not working, he enjoys trying to golf and being outside or hanging out with his buddies on the farm. Matt, thanks for coming aboard.
Yes, sir. All right, to keep it rolling, Mayor and Council, the Public Works Department would like to announce their new employees. First one being is Brent Thompson. He is our new city engineer in the Public Works Department. Brent brings extensive municipal engineering experience and a strong track record of leadership and project delivery. Before joining our team, Brent served for 10 years as the assistant city engineer for the city of White Bear Lake, where he played a key role in the Trunk Highway 61 revitalization project. Noted. He also spent 9 years as the city engineer for the city of Littleton, Colorado, where he secured and implemented millions of dollars in grant opportunities. His expertise in engineering project management, infrastructure planning, and departmental leadership make him an excellent addition to our team. Outside of work, Brent enjoys bicycling during the summer and curling during the winter. He is excited to return home, and now he is home, to Minnesota and reconnect with family and friends. Although he did admit to me the humidity has taken a little while. Industry knowledge position him to lead the engineering department and address the next, Elsie's not with us tonight, but our engineering intern. Elsie grew up in Denmark Township and graduated from Hastings High School in 2025. Elsie is currently pursuing a degree in civil engineering from Michigan Tech. She's the secretary of the Student Still Bridge team and has done some travels on that recently. Elsie enjoys playing instruments, very fitting for our music day coming up on the 21st, including the flute, saxophone, and trumpet. She enjoys the outdoors and is an avid hiker. We are happy to have her on the team, and she has been very busy right out of the gates on our 2026 neighborhood project, our 2026 mill and overlay, and assisting in developing the 2027 ADA sidewalk plan for our community. So we welcome Elsie. Mayor and council, we save the best for last. No, we have a lot of great people here tonight. It's always fun to be part of this. It's also great that you've been supportive of our annual intern program. We have interns in engineering, interns in communications, and we also have an intern in community development, Natalie Rogas. Natalie comes to us from the University of Minnesota. She's just finishing up her first year there in urban and regional planning. So it's a great opportunity for her here to learn all about planning, economic development, and historic preservation. One of the things that's unique about her in this internship is her background in the historic preservation portion of that. She did have an undergraduate degree from Washington University in St. Louis, where she had anthropology as part of that major, along with international studies and global health. After that, she did work for 6 years in Portland, Maine, doing research and consultation there, and decided to go back to graduate school, which we're glad that she has done. Natalie lives in Minneapolis with her husband, and she enjoys reading, running, and hanging out with their 2 cats there. And some of the things you'll see her doing this year, being involved in some of the commissions, being involved in music and market. She's counting parked cars downtown, as our interns often do in community development. And a lot of things on the historic preservation side, we're really using her expertise in that. So want to welcome Natalie, and grateful that she's here. Thank you so much.
Council, could we have a photo, please? With all of the... How'd you know? Dropped a minute. They'll all be leaving anyway. Yep. Isn't that the truth? Think about it. All right. Thank you, Dan. All right, council members, are there any corrections to the meeting from June 1st? Okay. Comments from the audience. At this time, we will hear comments from the audience. If anybody wishes to speak to the council at this time, please step to the podium, state your name and address. Anyone on Zoom? Not that we see. Okay. And no one on Zoom. All right, anyone who wish to speak to the council? Okay, nothing at this point. All right, council items to be considered. Council, is there any items to be considered? Okay, the city administrator has asked to add special event, 4th of July parade and fireworks to the agenda. This will require a unanimous vote, and I would accept a motion to, Councilmember Liefeld, and a second by Councilmember Pembo. Any discussion, council? All those in favor of the motion state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed to that motion state by saying nay. And that motion prevails. Thank you. Consent agenda, I would accept a motion to approve the consent agenda, council. Councilmember Lawrence, Councilmember Verichoff, any discussion, council? All those in favor of the motion state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed to that motion state by saying nay. And that motion prevails. Tonight we have a presentation and approval of the 2025 Comprehensive Financial Report. And for this item, we have an introduction by Ryan Engelstead of Virgin KDV, along with Chris Idemiller, our Finance Director. Welcome.
Welcome and good evening, everyone. Again, we are here for a presentation of this year's audit, and Ryan from our audit firm is here again to run through anything, stand for any questions you may have, and we're grateful again. The way things went this year went smoothly, and we're, I guess, ready to pivot to the budget process here.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Chris, Mayor, and members of the council. It's a pleasure to be here with you this evening to provide a recap of the results of the work that we did for the 2025 year for the city's financial activities. So, and as we've done in past years, just to help summarize the key items within the deliverables that we provide as part of the audit, which I know were included in your packet, and there's hard copies that were distributed if folks would like one of those to take with them. But it's a lot of information that's included in there, but I'll hit on the key points here as we go through this brief slide deck. So, and feel free to interject with any questions that you may have as I'm going through the information, but I'll try to be brief and provide some time on the back end too. So in that regard, I'll get started here. Towards the front of the financial report, the lengthiest of the 3 documents that we issue, included is our independent auditor's report. Various sections that are included within there, the first being the opinions that we are providing with regards to the financial statements for the city. And in the couple paragraphs that are included in there, even though you do not see the words unmodified or clean specifically in those paragraphs, that is the terminology that's used when referring to the type of opinion that we are providing. So that's the optimal result when it comes to a set of audited financial statements, and that's what oversight bodies, whether it be at the state level or federal agencies, grantors, et cetera, as well as bond rating agencies, that's one of the key things they're looking at in the report, is making sure there isn't any sort of modification to the opinion, which could come if there were particular accounting rules that weren't being followed, or if we weren't able to test all of the necessary information that we would need to provide an opinion. We'd have a disclaimer, things like that. But again, this year, unmodified opinion that we're providing. There's sections then that are included that describe the responsibilities of both management and then us as the auditors. Just from a very high-level perspective, management's responsibility is for the fair presentation of the financial information to us as part of the process leading up to our audit work. And then in addition to that, appropriate maintenance of internal controls. Our duties as the auditors is to design and execute the audit approach that meets the professional standards, puts us in a position where we can provide reasonable assurance that there would not be any material misstatements that would go undetected as part of the process. That reasonable assurance terminology is used intentionally by the profession, but it is meant to provide a high level of confidence. It's just because we're not testing every transaction that occurs, so we can't provide absolute assurance, but it is meant to provide 90 to 95% confidence that there again wouldn't be anything material that would go undetected, whether it be on an individual transaction or in the aggregate of what we're looking at. So, okay. Then a couple other reports that we issue. One is required under the government auditing standards, so all local government entities, et cetera, their audits have to be done with some additional procedures, et cetera, and some of the added reporting that comes along is with regards to internal controls over the financial reporting process, major transaction cycles, et cetera. As part of the annual audit, the standards are such that the look that we do of internal controls is not a deep dive, but we get a good sense as to appropriate checks and balances being in place, things like that. So from a segregation of duties perspective, there wasn't anything that surfaced as far as having any lack of segregation, things like that. There's compensating controls in place where it may not be cost beneficial to have perfect separation. So I just wanted to provide that context because that is something we report on fairly often with the entities that we audit, that there are some segregation of duties issues, but the city's done a nice job of having those compensating controls in place where need be. For this reporting, as part of the audit, if there's anything that we come across through our test work that may relate to a balance that is not stated as it should be with regards to the relevant accounting principles and so forth, we have to then take a look at the dollar amounts involved, and based on the extent of the size of the misstatement or potential misstatement, then work through a proposal of an adjustment with the finance team, and then move that through the financial statements. As part of our audit process this year, and I want to just provide the appropriate context with this too, we're looking at just a myriad of different balances and transactions and you name it across the board. From time to time, there are going to be things that we identify as part of the audit process. One of the things we have is the benefit of more time on our side. The finance team is confined into a shorter month and a half, 2-month window to kind of get everything closed up and reported. So one of the things that surfaced this year is with regards to the funding that the city is receiving for the water treatment plant. With that funding coming through the Public Facilities Authority and it being a combination of both debt and grant funding mechanisms involved, the nature of how the reporting was coming through and the information that was being provided to the finance team leading up to the end of the year and even into the kind of the closing process was such that it wasn't there wasn't an ability to get a good read as to what exactly that separation was. There was some information that surfaced kind of getting closer to our commencement of the audit work, and that kind of ultimately kind of left a situation where that adjustment was not made prior to us starting the audit. So it is something that we have to call out in the report that we issue. If there's any adjustments that we identify as part of the process, then we have to line it up to materiality and determine what needs to get reported in this fashion. So that's the item we had this year that's in that finding category. But I would say, just again for context, kind of in the grand scheme of things, the city's finance team has done a phenomenal job of closing out the year, handling, recording transactions as they should throughout the year. It's just an isolated matter here that surfaced that did require an adjustment, and basically it just resulted in some funds that initially got recorded as grant revenue, pulling that out and reflecting it as a debt liability instead. So, okay. Then this year was also a bit unique in that based on the federal grant funding sources that were in play during 2025 as far as eligible expenditures that the city had tied to particular programs, one being the ARPA, the American Rescue Plan, the last tranche of the pandemic relief funding. So recipients of that had a number of years to spend down those funds that were received. So the city did use basically all of that. I think there's maybe just a very small amount left of that last tranche of funding during 2025 towards costs related to the City Hall renovation HVAC project and such. So that had a significant amount of federal dollars involved in it, as far as in 2025, north of $1 million. And then also with the funding coming through the Public Facilities Authority, even though it being a state entity, a lot of the dollars that come through there originate at the federal level, and the federal regulations and requirements stick with those funds as they're passed through the state to then sub-recipients, being the city in this case. So given the extent of the spend that occurred with regards to those dollars on the water treatment plant, that also hit that threshold where we had to test that as a major program. So there was quite a bit of additional deeper dive compliance testing that we did as part of this year's audit, just based on where the spend was on those federally funded programs. But the great news is for the city, everything checked out well with regards to those, and there are no compliance issues or anything like that we're reporting. That's a clean, unmodified report in regards to that segment as well. Okay. Then at the tail end of the compliance report, there's a 1 page, maybe it's 2 pages of information as it pertains to Minnesota legal compliance. So one of the additional things we have to do with our audit as well for compliance purposes is work through a guide that the state auditor's office publishes and updates on an annual basis. It touches on a variety of areas that are noted here on this slide, but it really kind of focuses in on those state statutes that have financial pertinence, and that they want us as the auditors to take a look at on an annual basis, selecting samples, doing inquiries, all that kind of stuff, to gauge whether or not the city is following the relevant statutes in this regard. And as noted here as well, everything checked out for the city this year, and no findings that we're reporting for 2025 in that regard either. So great job there. It takes a lot of work, a lot of the activities that are happening around contracting and bidding and making sure appropriate conflict of interest protocols are in place, deposits at the banks are collateralized above and beyond the FDIC level of coverage, all that kind of stuff. So great job there. Okay. And then we also issue a separate communications letter as part of the audit process. There's various required communication points in there. All in all, the letter reads very well, very favorable for the city. It would touch on things like if we had significant difficulties that we encountered as part of the audit, we would describe those in appropriate level of detail in that letter. Also, if there's any disagreements, things like that. But it's very clean with regards to all that, so nothing that we're calling out. Chris and his team, again, did a remarkable job of preparing for the audit and then just being very available and prompt and so forth with addressing our questions and a request for additional information and so forth. Okay. So then the balance of that letter includes some financial trends information and so forth, and I've included a number of graphs within the slide deck here that we'll take a brief look at that are just excerpts from that letter, and I'll just provide some additional commentary here on a number of these. But first one, actually the first probably 4, if not 5 slides we'll look at relate to the general fund, of course being the kind of primary focus as it pertains to the finances and financial health of the city. Here you can see what the trend has been over the 5 years with regards to kind of building that fund balance. The thing that certainly looks unique here and it will be a common theme as I progress through the next few slides too, so I'll just make the comments now and avoid the redundancy when I get to the later slides. But you can see here, fund balance is growing at 2022, 23 kind of leveled off a little bit, and then a dip in 24, and then really came back up in 25. There was a timing issue there related to funding that was being utilized outside of the ARPA funding that I mentioned already. That was north of $1 million. There was additional state grant funding and so forth for the City Hall project. Most all of those expenditures occurred in 2024, but the governmental accounting and reporting standards have some unique requirements when it comes to what can get reflected in the fund level statements as revenue. The dollars have to be considered to be available, and what that means under the context of the accounting guidance is that it's collected within 60 days of year end. And given the timing of when those state grant funds came through, even though the expenditures hit in 2024, the revenue could not get recorded until 2025. So that is really the big jump. There's certainly some other factors too, but the lion's share of that jump that happened there just ties to that timing matter related to that funding, okay? So another comment on this slide that I want to make is just with regards to the fund balance position at the end of 2025. You can see there that unassigned grew to just north of $10 million, and most fund balance policies focus on that unassigned portion to see how much coverage that provides of the subsequent year's budgeted expenditures for the fund. Fund balance policy for the city provides for kind of a target range of 35 to 45%. There's guidance out there from the state auditor's office that basically says no less than 5 months of expenditure coverage should be in place through that fund balance at the end of the year, the unassigned fund balance. Just because of the timing of the large, the property tax settlements as they come in the next year, with the remittances going to the county, and then it's usually about late June into the first couple days of July before that first settlement makes its way to the municipalities. So to have cash flow coverage for that first 6 months of the next year, it's critical to have, close to 50, right around 50% on hand in that unassigned fund balance category. For the end of 2025, if you take that ratio compared to the next year's budgeted expenditures, it's closer to 55%. We see this across many municipalities that we work with, kind of erring a little bit on the higher side just because of uncertainties as to what could happen, could be unanticipated expenditures, the longer term look on local government aid, all those types of things. And then also it varies from one city to the next as to how there's another category of fund balance that's referred to as assigned fund balance, and that's where municipalities can do some earmarking of funds for specific purposes. There's many cities similar to Hastings that really do not use that assigned category, and there's a number that do and earmark quite a significant amount of their fund balance in that category. So it's all depending on the extent of use. If you're not using that assigned category, something more on the low 50% range certainly is not unusual by any means to have that. And there's always definitely plans in place as to how some of that will get utilized. Okay. All right, a pie chart here that just shows the composition of the revenue sources for the general fund. This normally doesn't change that much, but just because of that big swing with the grant funding in 2025, both with the timing on the state grant funds for the City Hall project, as well as the use of that ARPA funding from the federal level, it really brought up the intergovernmental revenue piece where the grants get reflected. And with taxes being the other major category of revenues in the general fund, that's where the offsetting hit goes by just a matter of doing the math on that. Certainly going forward out of 2025, would expect the percentages to revert back to kind of where they were, closer to where they were for 2024, with about 2/3 being from the taxes revenue. Okay. All right. Here's just looking at that makeup in a little different form bar graph instead. I'm not going to provide really any added context here. The levy increase is about $600,000 is reflected there, looking at the 2024 to 2025 increase on the taxes column. On the miscellaneous column there, even though the dollar amounts are relatively small to some of the others, you can see there it jumped up in 2023 and it's kind of stayed at that level. Most of what's included there is investment earnings. So with just where interest rates have been these last few years, and what the city has been able to generate based on having those investments in place, having some reserves set aside. And then you can see in 2025 starting to level off a bit just with the interest rates hitting their peak and starting to come down slightly. Okay. General pie chart here too, not going to mention much of anything. For most all cities, public safety is the largest of the categories and in the low 40% range. Very much expected for a city given location and size and so forth. That is right in line with what we would see with other kind of outer ring metro cities and so forth. So, okay. And again there, bar graphs, not going to call out anything specific. Public safety and general government, just a lot of it was staffing levels and wage increases, things like that, based on timing of contract negotiations and so forth. Okay. All right, so then on the budget to actual schedule for the general fund, you can see here things turned out quite well. Favorable variances both with the revenues and the expenditures. On the revenue side, about a 5% favorable variance. A lot of that was tied to the intergovernmental line with the grant revenue funding. So just that one oftentimes gets budgeted a bit more conservatively just because of some of the unknowns that can come into play there. On the expenditure side, a favorable variance of about 2%. And on the public safety line is where you'll see the largest of the variance with some other lines kind of washing each other out, makes up most of it. Just based on, again, what we're seeing with a lot of municipalities, staffing levels in the police departments and so forth, not quite at full levels yet. Really, 2025 was a year where it certainly was moving back closer to that compared to what it was a couple of years prior. But still, that's where we're seeing, in most cases, the budget variances. Okay. All right, quickly here on a couple special revenue funds, and then I'll wrap up with a few of the enterprise funds. So for the fire and ambulance operations, you can see here a fairly notable increase in revenues for 2025 compared to 24. Some of that was the levy allocation. The other part is the switch with the billing companies and just a lot more kind of effective billing practices and so forth. That's helping to kind of drive some of that revenue increase and recognition there. The expense side also went up, notably similar percentage, about 14%, increased in staffing as well as some capital purchases that occurred there. So with that, you can see that fund balance, even though the revenues were less than expenditures, there's some transfer activity, so it resulted in a slight fund balance. Actually, it was fund balance decrease on this one. I'm thinking ahead on the Parks and Recreation Fund. So with that, not much for transfer activity. That'll come in on this next one here. So Parks and Recreation, with this one, here as well, revenue and expense increases, and those transfers helping to increase the fund balance a bit. Okay. All right, so then with the enterprise funds for the utilities on the water fund, this one had the most notable jump for revenues percentage-wise. It was close to about 18%. Much of that was, very much planned, kind of built into the overall improvements plan and how those are going to be financed for the city, combination of debt, grant funding, as well as then building in some rate increases to help cover a portion of those improvement costs with the treatment plants and so forth. So a notable increase there on that side. Expenses also went up to the tune of about 14%. One thing to note, and it's mentioned at the bottom of the slide, is we did pull out some of the expenses that are reflected within the financial statement that relate to costs that are fully covered by the PFAS funding, because those are actually in the non-operating revenue section. So if you're going to compare operating revenues and operating expenses here, just based on where the placement of those costs and the revenues have to be, it would throw things off quite significantly if we didn't back that part out. So just doing it that way to provide apples to apples comparison. You can see here the water utilities continues to generate sufficient operating income, and that is after the non-cash depreciation expense. You can see where it's at both with and without. Certainly not quite at the levels where it was going back into 21, 22, but still covering in full depreciation expense. Okay. For the sewer fund, more stable year over year, about a 2% to 3% increase both on revenues and expenditures. And with that, with expenditures increasing at a slightly higher clip than revenues, you can see there on that operating income line, it is now, starting these last couple of years, putting it into a slight deficit position. So not quite covering the full amount of depreciation expense, but still quite close there in that regard. Okay. Stormwater fund, about a 4% increase, and a lot of that's just driven by rates. And as you can see here, that fund as well, after depreciation, generating sufficient cash flow to cover future improvements and limiting the extent of debt funding that would be necessary. Okay. And then the last fund we'll look at, the hydro fund. You can see 2025 really sticks out here. Just revenue-wise, it stayed fairly consistent from 24, dipping down a fair amount from where it was in years prior to that. On the expenditure side, or expense side, jumped up a fair amount, quite a bit in 2025. As you're aware, the dewatering project that was taking place added about $500,000 of expenses coming through, so that drove that operating loss. And then, I just wanted to mention too, as part of the audit process, we had, quite a bit of discussions just to make sure we're synced up as to what kind of where things are at in that process for the hydro fund, and kind of exploring what the future holds there. And certainly that'll be something we'll revisit, and be a focus of one of our focuses as part of the 2026 audit. So, okay. All right, and I'll finish up here real quickly, just with a couple slides on the tax rate, as well as another one that just shows the trend with the levy and the tax capacity. With this one, and again, I've been doing kind of my tour of city halls the past few weeks, and this chart looks pretty much the same at all of them. You've got years where you go, it's trending upwards in the first couple of years, and then it drops down quite significantly, and then starts making its way back up. Just with what happened with property values and so forth back in say the years leading up to 2023, and then of course that getting built into the assessed values from the county, that tax capacity number, the denominator of the equation, just really jumped up north of 20% for a lot of municipalities going from 22 to 23. So it dropped that tax rate down quite significantly. And now for most, with it leveling off here in the past year or so, just with the impact of kind of normalize, your normal levy increases, and then that tax rate or the tax capacity leveling off, the rate is now kind of getting back for most cities back to where it was pre-2023. So and that's exactly what we're seeing here with Hastings too, coming in at about 59%. Okay. And then this chart just shows kind of right in line with what I talked about, just where the numerator and denominator have been over that 5-year period. Okay. All right. So that is it as far as the commentary that I wanted to provide to you all to support or supplement the deliverables that we provided with regards to our audit work, and certainly we'll field any questions that folks have, but also just want to say thank you. We greatly appreciate the opportunity to continue to be of service for the city of Hastings. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yep, thank you.
So much. Council, any discussion, any questions? Well, we do appreciate all the work you put into it. I just have to know, how much time does it take to do an actual audit? I mean, do you start from tomorrow and then going into,
Well,
it's a long time, I know.
So for our city audits, we will start doing some preliminary work, usually
Sure.
in January, some planning conversations, and then sometimes having one or two team members, come on site, or nowadays a good amount of the audit work is done remotely too.
Sure.
Just with being able to easily use the technology sources. But then it's usually April, early to mid-April, we've got a team of 4 or 5 that are working, long days for a full week, and maybe into the next week on kind of working through all the testing that we have to do, and then the next the 4 weeks or so after that, going through our layers of review and putting the reports together and so forth. But an audit for like a city the size of Hastings, we probably on an annual basis put right around 300 hours.
Wow.
Or so into
Well,
the engagement. So,
We
yeah,
appreciate your time.
yeah, absolutely.
All right. Council members, I would accept a motion to approve the 2025 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. Councilmember Verchoff, okay. And a Councilmember Liefeld has a second. Any new discussion, council? All those in favor of the motion state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed to that motion state by saying nay. And that motion prevails. Thank you, Ryan.
All right, thank you.
Tonight, council, we have a resolution to approve the Metropolitan Council Cooperative Construction Agreement. And for this item, we will have an introduction by our Public Works Director, Ryan Stemski. Ryan, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, for our first item under the contracts portion, Just a quick refresher on the screen. I know there's a lot of lines and text, but basically, I'm going to call out colors for the sewer issue. Right now, we have to kind of plan for the future. In 10 to 15 years, our sewer will no longer go to the current wastewater treatment plant. We'll be going west to the regional plant. And so knowing that, we're planning and phasing sewer improvements over time. Eventually, in 10 to 15 years, when our existing treatment plant, Met Council's existing treatment plant ceases to exist, we will have a lift station next door to the treatment plant. That's where all the sewage pipe is running now, so it's an efficient way to just connect that over to a lift station. The purple line from the lift station downtown would go down Tyler Street. That's a force main. So we would lift the sewage down Tyler to 18th Street. And then from 18th Street, you see a green line there. That green line is a gravity sewer line that goes down 18th Street, down a portion of 61, and then down 46. As we continue down 46, we will pick a lift station site to be determined with Met Council. That will be a Met Council lift station. That lift station will be owned and operated by Met Council. Our flows from downtown will head to that lift station. And then also from the west side of town, our flows will come down General Sieben and then in the opposite direction, down 46 to that same lift station. And then in this turquoise line, from the lift station, it will head west down 46 and out of Hastings to a regional lift station to be determined. So it's important to kind of know all that. That's a lot of phases and a lot of work to be done. But right now it's important that with our 61 planning, for our Trunk Highway 61 planning, we don't want to rip up infrastructure early, right? So we don't want MnDOT to come in, do the 61 work, and then in 10 years or so, Met Council come in and go, oh, well, we got to start bringing in sewer pipes and ripping up the investment that was just made with those dollars. So the green line is what we're focusing in on with this item. The cooperative construction agreement is really Met Council in your packet. It's their agreement that covers the engineering and the construction services and the construction of the gravity line in green there. So this would be them funding that design and then funding the construction that would go in along with the Trunk Highway 61 project. So that's what we're talking about here tonight. And so it's just an efficient way for us to get that pipe in the ground and get it readied for when this transition occurs. So we're coordinating this with MnDOT, Met Council, and the city just to kind of have an efficient coordinated design and construction project. So that's in your packets tonight. I can stand for any questions on that, or it's in your packet for approval.
Thank you, Ryan. Council, discussion, Councilmember Lightfoot?
Thanks, Jenner. Ryan, love this, right? Thinking ahead, planning for something that we know is going to be happening. There's been some changes over the last number of years regarding the water treatment plant, its locations. I mean, at a period of time, it was out Highway 10. I mean, this has kind of been an ongoing thing. So although it seems to me like this isn't going to be a huge expense to the city to put this line in now for something that may happen in 10 or 15 years, right? It just seems surprising to me that Met Council is approving to pay for this at this time. I love it. I'm skeptic because it just feels like it's a lot of what ifs from down the road. But is that what this is? Met Council is saying, we're going to pay this expense up. Is that Tyler you said, or Ramsey? Tyler?
Tyler.
Up Tyler as well?
Yes, so all this redirection was
Yes.
done, the new service point was directed and mandated by Met Council. So for our infrastructure to get there, that's a cost in their policy that Met Council pays. So this is a portion of that. So they are kind of putting their money where their mouth is, right? And saying, we are investing in this. We hear you, Hastings. We want to be efficient about it with taxpayer dollars. And we're preparing an agreement in a resolution for our city council.
I do have a follow-up then, Ryan. Thank you for that. So the Tyler, is that going to happen now or will that happen in the future?
That'll be in the future.
So the green is all we're worrying about, getting
Just-
the infrastructure in the
Yep,
ground?
yep, I just wanted to show the complete picture, because
But that
why
will
just
not be-
61? But green is all we're focused on tonight. Those other phases, we have guesstimates, but we continue to work with Met Council bi-weekly to talk about timing and strategy and when we do those other pieces. So more updates to come on the bigger, greater project, but this is, if we need to capture this now, get it designed, get it in the project, if we're gonna get it under the 61 corridor.
Excellent. Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution approving the cooperative construction agreement between the Met Council and the City of Hastings.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Liefeld. Councilmember Pemble has a
I'll second.
light on, so
That's
he is
fine.
seconding it. Any discussion, council? All those in favor of the motion state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed to that motion state by saying nay. And that motion prevails. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor.
We also have a authorized signature of the WSB Services for Engineering, Design, and Constructive Support, the MCES Trunk Sanitary Sewer Main Replacement Project. And you may continue, Director.
Yes, Mayor and Council, now that we have a cooperative construction agreement in place to pay for the engineering and construction support services, Met Council came to us and asked, rather than getting another consultant involved with this design, they wanted the same engineer that is doing the Trunk Highway 61 utilities, sewer and water along the entire corridor, to incorporate this design into that plan set. So there's one plan set to hand over to MnDOT for the utilities. And so with that, we did get a proposal from WSB to complete those services. Those are in your packet. The design and construction support services in the contract is a not-to-exceed amount of just under $595,000, which is under the percentage in the construction cooperative agreement with Met Council. So those fees for delivering on those services are identified in your previous item and under that agreement. And that's the estimated cost to complete the work and the efforts. So with that, we would recommend approval for the WSB services so we can get to work on pulling these plans in the project. And
Thank you, Ryan.
any questions?
Councilmember Pemble.
I move that we enter that agreement to complete that project.
Thank you, Councilmember Pemble. Councilmember Beck seconds that. Any discussion, council? All those in favor of the motion state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed to that motion state by saying nay. And that motion prevails. All right, approve the right of entry agreement for utility work along Trunk Highway 61 project. And Ryan, you may continue.
Yes, Mayor and Council, and this is my final presentation item for tonight, I promise. Now we're jumping back over to another large project in the department, and that is the Trunk Highway 61 project. With this item, this is the right of entry agreement. So we worked with our city attorney, we worked with the MnDOT right-of-way team, and came up with an agreement that would cover MnDOT's eventual contractor in 2028 to go onto private property to do utility work. So that's really the essence of this. So our project will replace all the water main and the sanitary sewer main across 61. But we also have several properties along 61 that are connected directly from 61 from the main to the property with services. We know in Hastings, those services are private in nature. But as we do on our neighborhood projects, with this project, we wanted to not only replace the main, but replace those old aged service pipes out to the right of way, right? Again, trying to protect our infrastructure investments. And so with that, our contractor is digging an approximately 8-foot deep trench up to the property line. Sometimes that water shut off is just a little bit beyond too. So we want to be able to do every property. We want to be able to put spoil piles and safely construct said service line. And in order to do that, we do need to have a right of entry on the property. So really what this is saying we can enter your property for the purposes of doing the service replacement. If you give us this agreement or sign this agreement, we will do said work at no cost to the property. If you do not, we really cannot do that work because MnDOT's contractor won't come onto the property, right, without authorization to do so. And so then we would not be able to do that full scope of work that we intended for the property. So anyway, what we have here tonight is the right of entry template, similar to what we've done in other agreements. We're looking for council authorization of said template, but we're also looking for our city administrator approval to sign the agreement rather than bring 40-plus agreements back to city council. So as our team goes out and gets property owner signatures, we'd like to bring those back in handfuls, hopefully, to City Administrator Waticha and have him sign those, and then we have our authorization to move forward. So that's what we have in the packets here tonight. Any questions on this item?
Thank you, Ryan. Councilmember Verichov, did you have a question? Okay, Councilmember Lightfoot?
Thanks, Mayor. Okay, so 40-some businesses, if I'm imagining we're going to approve this because it needs to happen. That being said, I'll make a motion to authorize city staff signature for the ROE agreement along Highway 61.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Councilmember
Thank you.
Campbell.
So-
Or, Councilmember Lightfoot, yes.
So what happens if a business says no? Can they do that?
It's their property.
Okay.
They can say no. Then the private service line to their property is really their risk from there on. It would be unfortunate, right, to
Right.
do all this investment atop and then have a break happen a year or two later after the
Well,
project.
that was my question right there, is if a break were to occur on one of these properties that chose not to let us put this line in, is there a liability on their part for the damage that it's causing?
Correct.
Because I would imagine that
It would
shuts
be their
down
cost.
water,
Yep.
water to other businesses. I mean, I can't even imagine what that domino effect could create.
Yeah, it would be their cost, just like it is today. If it happened today, whatever happened, damages, replacement costs would be on that private business
Thanks,
or
Ryan.
or resident along
Thank you,
61.
Councilmember Lightfoot. Councilmember Verichov.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'd first look for a second. Are you okay with that?
I would love to make a second. May I do so with a question as well?
After the second, you may ask a question.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
would like to offer the second then.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ryan, just to be clear here, given that these are 40 different businesses, and again, we anticipate that everybody will say yes, but could you just very briefly for the two people that are watching at home and might be interested in this at some point, or hopefully the 40 businesses, what will that process be in terms of, so I see that city staff is going to be going out, interacting with folks, talking with them, getting feedback, explaining to them exactly what they're doing. Will there also be, we had heard at a recent public hearing that folks kind of had some concerns in terms of what was being mailed to folks and not necessarily to others. Can you just walk us very briefly through like what this process looks like in terms of letting the businesses know that this project is happening and that their approval is requested?
Yes,
Thank you.
good question. It's going to be a layered approach, right? Initially, what we're going to do is Alex Menke, our under community development, is sort of our business liaison, right? So he's out door knocking and talking to businesses, and this is a great way for him to get engaged with the businesses along this very important project. And so initially out of the gates, I have a lot of business contacts, so the folks that I'm regularly working with on project questions and issues, obviously I'll have an agreement with me at all times, ready to go, but Alex will kind of be doing door knocking and phone calling and letter mailing and whatever ways he connects with businesses in our community, he'll be having that direct contact over the next couple months. If we get to a point where Alex isn't getting a lot of folks signing up or just not getting in touch with them, we can go kind of a higher level and get some support services and go a different route with folks. In the meantime, we're going to have several public meetings coming up, and at those public meetings, I will be mentioning that in our portion of the presentation. We will have people set up there to hand these out, sign them on the spot, email them if they need to go out. These are pretty straightforward signatures. Obviously, everybody on the mortgage or property needs to sign, but we can do that and get an email version, and that'll suffice and that sort of thing. So we're coming at it from all different ways, And please be on the lookout and on the, contact me with any questions, but we'll be seeking them out and then having these available at all the meetings coming up.
Thank you, Councilmember Verichov. Okay, there is a first and a second. Any other discussion, council? All those in favor of the motion state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed to that motion state by saying nay. And that motion prevails. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Tonight, under Community Development, we have a resolution for a special use permit for automobile sales at Tri-Rivers Chevrolet at 2929 Red Wing Boulevard. And for this item, we will have an introduction by our Community Development Director, John Hensman. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council members. As the mayor pointed out, we have a resolution for your consideration tonight to issue a special use permit for automobile sales at Tri-River Chevrolet. The obvious question coming up, I think, from the council members is, hey, hasn't that place been open for about 35 years or so? Why are we doing this now? And that's a fair question. When we spoke with the new owners of Tri-River Chevrolet, they were looking for a copy of this permit, which has been required by our code for a number of years. In the review that we did, we found that there was discussion of the special use permit, but there was no action on it. We did rezone the property, we did do a site plan, we did a lot of other land use things related to it, but no special use permit. So the owner is seeking to do that tonight. So that's the reason why we're bringing this forward. There is no changes to the operation, there is no changes to the building or the site as part of this. This is just recognizing the existing situation that's out there. We did hold a public hearing at Planning Commission, and Planning Commission voted 5-0 to recommend approval as presented by staff. We have not had any comments from the public at this time. So we are asking for your consideration of this. Bear in mind that with special use permits, it does require 6 of 7 council members to support. With 1 council member absent, that would require a unanimous approval for this. And I can stand for the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Councilmember Pembo?
There we go. John, thank you. I don't really have a question. I just would make a motion that
Sure.
we would move ahead and get this done. Thank you.
Okay, there is a motion on the table. Was that a finger? Councilmember Liefeld will have a second on that. Any discussion, council? Okay, all those in favor of the motion state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed to that motion state by saying nay. There you go, John. Thank you.
Thank you.
Also under community development, we have a determine any additional action. This is an order to demolish and removal hazardous buildings, Hastings Creamery, 1701 Vermillion Street, and this is gladly welcomed.
Absolutely, Mayor. Mayor and Council, as you're aware, earlier this year in February, we adopted a resolution ordering the property owners of the former Hastings Creamery to demolish and remove all hazardous buildings by today, June 15th, 2026. And we're happy to report that that has been completed. The buildings are gone, the debris is gone, the grass seed has been set in there. The one item within your report that was partially unresolved has been resolved. Since the report went out, we did get a surety for the grass to grow, so the permit itself is completely closed out. So there is really no other action from a staff standpoint. We're not recommending any other action necessary. We wanted to bring this for you for your attention tonight to make sure that you concurred with that, and to also bring it to attention that, hey, we're done with the process that we've had on this. So I can stand for any questions. I don't know if there's any action necessary unless you are directing staff to do something more.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Just a discussion, council, any comments or? Okay, nothing. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Long time a coming,
A long time
correct?
coming.
All right, under administration, we will have Speedway West Store number 4486, 1390 South Frontage Road. And for this item, we will have an introduction by our city attorney, Cindy Kirkhoff, followed by a hearing and potential action by the city council. Welcome, Cindy.
Good evening, good evening, Mayor and Council. You don't see me here very often,
No.
so it's kind of weird standing, but we'll see what I can do here. So tonight, the council is holding a hearing because Speedway West requested a hearing after the council's action during the last council meeting. Just a brief overview. Speedway is owned by an LLC. They're doing business as Speedway 4486. They currently have a license to sell tobacco, and that expires on June 30th of 2026. Speedway submitted an application for a tobacco license, which essentially is a renewal tobacco license on May 1st. June 1st, at the last council meeting, the council heard from the staff that the staff would recommend that the tobacco license be denied due to the compliance check failure history on this particular licensee. As required by the city code, the city clerk provided a notice of the denial and also a notice that the Speedway can request a hearing. And they did that on the same day. And tonight there was a hearing scheduled for this appeal. Just a brief overview of the tobacco license renewal process. It's set forth in Chapter 112 of the City Code. A renewal license is to be treated the same as a regular or the initial license. Something to point out is that the issuance of a license is a privilege under the City Code and law. It's not automatically renewed. The council has the authority to both approve or deny the application for a license, and if the license is approved, it's valid for 1 year. So in this case, the applicant requested a 26-27 license. They are subject to compliance check, which shall be done from time to time, but at least once per year. And if the renewal license is denied, then the notice of denial shall be given to the applicant along with the right to appeal. Another heavy slide, just to give you some overview of the process, which we have to follow because it's set forth in City Code. As I'd mentioned, they have the right to request a hearing. They have to do so within 10 days of receiving the notice, and they did comply with that. And what the City Code says is after the hearing is conducted by the council, they have the right, or the council may affirm the denial. That's how the ordinance is written. I just thought I'd provide a general overview of the process of this type of hearing. The city presents its evidence, information, and submits that into the record, and then the licensee or Speedway has the right to be heard and present their side. The council can ask questions during either the presentations, and the mayor is the presiding officer, as usual. And then following that hearing, the closing of the hearing, the council will make a decision about the license. Chapter 461 of the Minnesota statutes, section 461, requires the city conduct a tobacco license compliance check at least annually. This is required by City Code to make sure that the license holders are checking ID. It's usually done in conjunction with law enforcement. And City Code has the same type of requirement. State law does set forth the penalties for compliance check failures. It's not something that's in the City Code of Hastings. The legislature said after the first compliance check violation, the license holder shall be required, or the city must impose an administrative penalty of $300 for the first violation, $600 for the second violation within 36 months of the first violation, and $1,000 for a third or subsequent violation within 36 months of that first violation. And the license must be suspended for not less than 7 days, or it may be revoked. So it gives the city the power to revoke the license if it so chooses. So it's giving the city discretion to do so, depending on the facts. In this case, Speedway does have a history of compliance check failures. According to city records, there was a compliance check failure in 2016. In 2019, there was a different administrative penalty in that particular year. In those particular years, it was only $75, and now it's $300. The city came to learn that in 2022, the FDA did a compliance check and they failed that check. That is public information on the FDA's website. That's how we learned about it. And in 23, 24, and 25, there were failures, and you can see in the slide what the penalties were. And I just wanted to let you know that after the staff report was done and posted on the agenda, the staff and myself learned that there were compliance checks done in 23, 24, and 25 that were not failures. So the law enforcement, police department did 2 checks in 23. The first one they failed, and that was done on April 28th of 2023. That was a failure. And then another one was conducted on December 19th of 2023, and that one they did not fail. I just wanted to note that for the record. In 2024, Speedway failed the compliance check on July 22nd, 2024, but did not fail the compliance check on December 12th of 2024. In 2025, Speedway failed the compliance check on October 3rd, of 2025, but did not fail the compliance check on November 14th of 2025. So the failures were after, or excuse me, then the not failures were after the failures each year. I just wanted to note, in lieu of a hearing, which they had every right to do, in lieu of a hearing, Speedway always paid the administrative penalty and accepted the suspensions, both 24 and 25. And I put a little asterisk on the slide about the not failures. This is just a summary of what happened in 2022. The compliance check was done in January of 2022 by the FDA, and they determined that there was a failure, and they sent a warning letter. In 2023, the employee sold, according to the incident report, or the police report, sold Camo blue cigarettes to a person under 21, and the cashier did not ask for age or ID. And again, in lieu of the hearing, they just paid the $300 administrative penalty. 2024, the employee sold Marlboro, sorry, I can't pronounce it, I'm not Marlboro, sorry, cigarettes to a person under 21. And according to the police report, the officer said the employee did not scan the ID with their system. Again, in lieu of the hearing, they paid the administrative penalty and accepted that 7-day suspension. And the penalties were approved by the council. So what happens is Speedway's representative signed this resolution, and then it was presented to the council, and the council approved that. In 2025, the failure was that the employee sold Marlboro Light cigarettes to a person under 21. According to the report, they scanned it, but it showed a fail on the scanner, so the employee used another person's ID to complete the transaction. Speedway agreed to pay the $1,000 penalty, and then they agreed to or accepted the 7-day license suspension. And again, the council approved that penalty by that resolution, and I think there's a typo on that. So the city code sets forth a section about the denial of licenses, tobacco licenses, and it lists the grounds for the city to use for denying a license for a renewal or what I'll call a unit initial license. The criteria are very common in Minnesota. They see a lot of these same criteria. The applicant, in this case, has not complied with the city code, and so because they've failed the compliance checks on numerous occasions, therefore the basis of denial would likely fall under subsection B, number 2. In this case, the council's authority is to really consider the history of Speedway's compliance failures. They failed the FDA's compliance check in 2022. They failed the compliance check in 23, 24, 25, 3 failures in 36 months because they sold tobacco to a person under 21. They always paid the administrative penalties and accepted the suspensions without challenge. The city code, section 112, 05, and just the general police powers of municipalities, give the city council authority to deny the renewal of the tobacco license. For the history of the compliance failures, or ordinance violations, that's what the council's discretion is, essentially. Now, the actions available to the council in this case, they can, what the city code refers to it as affirm the denial of the tobacco license, which means that you agree with the decision that you made last meeting to deny the license. You can reverse the denial of the tobacco license or overturn the original decision to deny the license and approve the application. So if you affirm the denial, then they will not be licensed to sell tobacco during the 26-27 year. But it'll not prevent them from applying for a license next year. The recommendation is to adopt the resolution affirming the denial that's in the packet. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, the representative for Speedway can approach the council and present their evidence.
Thank you, Counselor. Council, do you have any questions for our attorney? Any questions? Left side of the DS? Thinking? Okay, thank you, Counselor. At this time, will we hear from Speedway?
Mayor, members of the council, City Attorney Kirchhoff, my name is Jim Yarosh, and I'm an attorney with the firm of Siegel Brill in Minneapolis, and I'm representing Northern Tier Retail doing business as Speedway for the Speedway convenience store that we're discussing here on the west side. Obviously, not ideal to be here tonight to have to discuss this issue, and I'm sure it'd be the council and mayor's preference that we're not here discussing this issue, that there's compliance, and we understand that. And I recognize at first blush, when you look at this, boy, this doesn't seem like a great track record. And, but it's not, I'm here to tell you, as our employees of Speedway, because of indifference or lack of effort. And there are some things that aren't in the record yet that we will deliver and discuss, and perhaps we can find a better solution than all or nothing. Here is what we would like to discuss today. First of all, a couple of the items that aren't in the record yet relate to my client's efforts to ensure that sales to underage people do not occur. One of those, and particularly after the July 22nd, 2024, Speedway implemented a point of sale change. I mean, literally, they locked down the register so you can't make a sale of tobacco without scanning the ID provided. And so, and we'll hear more, because you should hear more of the specifics from the employees, but I'll tell you that the one violation that has been documented that had occurred since July 24 was basically an event, a rogue event where an employee just wanted to make the sale, used the ID they had access to, and made the sale. But otherwise, you can't override the system to make that sale unless there is some complete malfeasance by the employee, okay? And that's what occurred here. And so you'll see since July 24, when they implemented some more policies, which you'll hear of, there has, really not been a policy violation that really could have been avoided. And secondly, there are also, not only are there city compliance checks, the ones mandated by the law on a yearly basis, as you can see, and that's when I called the city attorney to understand, have there been other checks where there were successful? And after that October violation in November, there was another compliance check where the Speedway passed, which I would like to just offer into the record the letter from the city's police chief thanking and congratulating Speedway with following the law and applying procedures to ensure that sales hadn't been made. I don't know if I have enough copies, but this is the city letter that I would like to offer into the record. that is the letter from the police chief. And importantly, again, congratulating, you'll see, thanking Speedway for the efforts, appreciating the work that has been put in. And we agree by working together to make a difference so these ordinances and state law is followed. Secondly, what also has been going on consistently, and I think maybe before July 24, but certainly after that, there's a third-party program in which Speedway pays a company to do additional compliance checks. And since July of 24 through, I guess, basically the present, June 9th is what is on here, there has been 12 compliance checks, including alcohol, tobacco. I think 6 of them were tobacco related, but 12 in total. All were passed. And again, this is a third-party contractor that Speedway hires to go and do its own, to try to monitor their own process as well. So I'd like to offer in for the city council and mayor to review. I might.
I'll allow.
Thank you. So just a quick look. They passed every result. You got the employee's name, who was there, what the visit type involved. It's got the date on there. It's got the store number, so they know that it's tied to this store. And that are the results of that. So at this point, what I think, what I'd like to do then is, with me tonight is Sean Bachnovitz. He's the market leader. He's in charge of multiple stores and regions within the state, to talk about prior incidents and the company's response, the training that goes on with employees to ensure compliance and the attempt to comply with these, and also the impact of tobacco sales on the success of the store and what a denial would mean to this store and the employees, who a few of which are also here tonight that live in Hastings. And also with me is Robin Meyer. She's the store manager. She'll discuss kind of that most recent violation that happened that we feel was would have been difficult given the circumstances, and you'll hear more about those and why we think that's a difficult, not that it didn't happen, but how can be prevented when an employee just chooses to go and do something that it's not authorized to do, and it violates the law, in fact. And then I'd just like to reserve a little time to just briefly talk about the exhibits and summarize what we've heard from our employees. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Bachnovitz.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council members. My name's Sean Bachnovitz. I am the region manager for 150 speedways in the state of Minnesota. I could take you through all my job responsibilities and duties, but ultimately I'm a people leader. I develop people to do bigger and better things throughout their career. I guide them, I coach them, I train them. So, being here is pretty embarrassing. I obviously haven't been here for the entirety of all of these violations, but it's embarrassing. We have a responsibility to the city, to its constituents, and to the people that work for me in our stores. So I take it personally responsible when we don't meet the expectations that are set each and every day with my people. It's a people business. If it was running on autopilot, I wouldn't have a job. We do have failures, not just with things like alcohol and tobacco violations. We get gift card scams that come through. And even though we extensively train our people to hang up, we've got register prompts that tell them, are you on the phone right now as you're ringing up a gift card transaction? We still lose thousands of dollars a day in gift card scams. So, like I said, I take it personally responsible when somebody on my team fails and doesn't meet expectations, because it's my job to coach them, lead them, and develop them. But they also lose their job, and I take that personally too. You get cited for not doing the right thing, and you lose your job to pay for that citation on top of that. So one thing I would like to point out, you know, the city attorney said it is a privilege. It's a privilege to have an alcohol tobacco license. What I also would like to address is as you look at 2023 to 2025, we did make steps to do the right thing and try to help make sure that we're following the law to the T. In 2023, that employee was terminated. They did not even ask for the ID. 2024, that employee was terminated. They got the ID, they scanned it, the system rejected it, and they still put it through. In 2024, after this violation, I decided that we were going to do a full lockdown on the POS system where you have to have an ID to scan in order to get the transaction to go through. In 2025, that employee, my employee, decided to take an ID, scan it, get rejected, and used somebody's ID that was left at the store that we keep in case they come back. That's quite unfortunate and a poor decision. You know, I look at what could I have done differently. We've got programs in place from the day that they're hired. They go through, on day one, alcohol and tobacco age verification training. We've got the BARS program that comes in randomly to do what essentially the city or the FDA does. We celebrate wins, so when I get those reports from BARS and somebody does pass, I celebrate that. I send out that communication, and I don't just do it to that person or that store. I do it to the entire market because that is how important it is to make sure that we're following the law. We do re-education training, so once a year, they also have to retake that age verification training on alcohol and tobacco. And then anytime we do have a failure, whether it's BARS, city, FDA, they are required to have every employee at that store retake the alcohol and tobacco age verification training. You know, I could talk about how important the tobacco sales are to the store. It's a huge driver. It's 40%. That's not really the point. The point is, at the end of the day, I'm responsible for the people that work for me. The store manager who has a job because the store's operating and has the privileges to serve our community those items, but also to the 8 Hastings community employees that we have. You know, they depend on their role, and part of that is being able to be a full-fledged convenience store that's able to sell alcohol and tobacco, gasoline, cold vault items. So, you know, ultimately, I can't sit here and defend the track record. What I will say is that we have taken this seriously every single time that we've failed. We have done something different every single time. And unfortunately, when you're in the people business, you know, things don't go as planned. But, you know, it's important that I reiterate, we are committed to following the law. There is no benefit for us to sell to somebody that's not of age. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council Mayor. My name is Robin. I am the manager for the Speedway in Hastings. I've been employed with the company since February 2024 and at Hastings October 2024. I managed a BP in Prescott since 2018. This is my first time as a leader where someone has failed the tobacco compliance check. My responsibilities daily are overseeing the store's operations, training the employees, and ensuring they're following compliance and company rules and local regulations, and serving our community and customers. So with the failure of the tobacco compliance in October 3rd, 2025, the sale should have never went through. The employee grabbed someone's ID that was left behind to force the sale go through. This employee was trained and knew to do better and has been witnessed by myself to have done better, and I've seen said employee turn away customers because their ID wouldn't scan. With that being said, at the end of the day, it's still my responsibility because she was my employee, and I do accept the responsibility of the violation. To move forward, that employee was terminated immediately, and then I put a policy in at my store where all IDs that are left behind are to be locked into my office until the rightful owner comes and picks them up. Also, moving forward, me and my assistant manager are scheduled to do the best practice class on July 13th. We also, like Sean said, reinforce training for everyone in the store to show how to ID properly. We took this violation very seriously, and since I began managing the store, we have not failed a compliance check from bars or the city minus this one rogue incident. We passed on November 14th of 2026 because all my employees know the importance of IDing and not selling to minors. And finally, I would like to touch base on the effect that the decision may have on my employees. We have 8 employees, they're all Hastings residents, they all walk. That's 8 people that are at risk for losing their job because they can't get transportation to another store within Speedway's area. I have 3 of my employees here currently with me today waiting on the results of this hearing. And I just want the city council and mayor to know that I take this very seriously and my team will do better next time and next time and next time. If you have any questions, please let me know. My name is Robin. Sorry, it's my first time publicly speaking.
Thank you.
A little nervous.
So, thank you. I know we presented some issues that are serious and make it difficult, but I think it's important to reflect on the record again. And that's why we're here, and that's why hearings are offered, because there are other factors here. And so what I would like to focus on, I guess, again, it's not lack of effort or carelessness, as hopefully we've demonstrated tonight. While it's happened years before, consecutive years, if you take away the one incident, which again, they learned from it, made another policy change, so they're constantly reacting to circumstances. And the goal is obviously 100%, and it should be, but sometimes you didn't expect something and you have to react and implement a new policy, and that's what's happened. So, when you look at the changes then since 2024 that apparently have helped, and as you can see from the track record that is now in the record that wasn't originally with the other successes. Again, your own staff came out again, probably deservedly so. Hey, if you failed once, we should see how you're doing again. And they came out. And then the own independent that I don't even know if the city knew that they were doing to try to monitor their own compliance. And they're spending money to do that, showing how seriously they take it, and the results are there, and they're now hopefully of some relevance to you when you say, hey, should we turn down the license? And we're going to keep those, I would assume, those the third-party checks. Okay. And so it seems sort of, it doesn't have to also be, all or nothing type of situation, because there could, and I don't know, I guess I throw this out to the city attorney, could you grant the license, impose the penalty, some penalty, if that, I mean, we would say that we had been penalty-free, but that one hopefully explainable incident on October 3rd, but if not, is there something lesser that we could do? And I take the police chief at its word that it's a cooperative effort. We're working together. We have employees working with city programs, okay, signing up, trying to get better. They're open to any feedback. I think that wasn't stated, but They are open to feedback, working with the city staff, other suggestions on how they might better do this. So, you know, I would throw that out. Is there, because the denial for a whole year would, as you heard, have serious impact on the store. They don't know exactly what the ramifications are, but they're serious. And again, no good reason to not want to comply. So they're trying to do it, looking for a cooperative way, working with the city, so collectively we can make this better, situation better. So with that, I would open up to questions or comments of the staff, but we would request that that the denial not be affirmed and the license granted, and as a secondary, then if that's not satisfactory, is there something less than a full denial that we could engage and discuss with the council, so that we can continue on and continue to improve and make this store successful? So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Verichov?
Thank you, Your Honor. Councilmember Liefeld, are you fine if I speak first? Thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you for taking responsibility for these actions, as you've said, and we don't need to continue to debate this. We all take this incredibly seriously. I appreciate your employees being here too, and I appreciate the hardship that this would impose on them. I was hoping that Cynthia could just remind the council, remind the room what our options are here.
Certainly, Mayor and Council. So the options, John, would you be able to go back a slide for me? Thank you. I appreciate that.
There you go.
Thank you. Be it to affirm the denial or reverse the denial of the license, which means overturning it. The council could reverse the denial and delay the effective date of the license as some sort of a suspended period, if that makes sense. That's kind of a part of two, really.
Mayor, thank you, Cynthia, that's helpful. You know, coming into this meeting tonight, being that we've discussed this, that there have been so many violations, that we've gotten updates from the chief of police many times, my decision was easily made. I will say that I am greatly encouraged and greatly thankful to your management team for implementing something each time that this happened, that you tried to prevent it from reoccurring. I also appreciate the BARS program and the report that you gave us here showing this as well. And I'll be honest, I didn't know that 40% of your store's revenue consisted of tobacco, which is probably its own terrible issue in itself, but that's not for tonight, so. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Verichov. Councilmember Liefeld?
Thanks, Your Honor. Similar to what Councilmember Verichov said, seemed like a pretty cut and dry answer to me. Reading numbers, listening, I too manage a group of people, and I am constantly being told that it is the pace of the leader. So which one of you is the leader, I'm not exactly sure, but I feel really good knowing that Robin, for instance, hasn't failed a compliance check since coming on board in 2024. That says something to me, right? I've come in behind people who didn't follow the rules as well as they should have, and that showed in the employees. So I do understand how that goes. I think it's really important that you train the employees so that they understand it's your job. All three of those people that you talked about since 23 were terminated. So all three of those people lost their jobs. Then we come into the problem of rogue employees, somebody used that term, a rogue incident or malfeasance of an employee. Well, that's half the battle in hiring, right? You hope for the best. So there's some areas in here that really make me concerned. I do understand that you're the only, and you're still 24 hours out there, right?
Yes.
Yep, so you are the only 24-hour location, that end of town, west of town. But it concerns me because it's all on the employees. This is, right? it would be easy to grab your own ID. I don't know if you can implement, any reporting where you check, I'd imagine there's a report that shows whose IDs were run. And if that's something that's assigned to Robin, or maybe it's to Sean, I don't know, that looks to see, let's say you're Bob, Jim, and Paul, their IDs aren't being used, right? Just, I feel like there's things like in my job, there's checks and balances, and every time something goes wrong with one of my employees, it's, what are you going to do to prevent this from happening in the future? I'm sitting here in a real tough spot. I mean, absolutely loved Police Chief Wilski, but participation ribbon for following the law? I mean, that concerns me right there. Congratulations, you followed the law. That's the base, right? So I'd like to hear how everyone else feels. I would question, and I don't know if this is for city staff or for our attorney here, if we hypothetically were to not to withdraw the action and allow them to get licensed, can we implement additional compliance checks? Because respecting new management's position, right? But putting your money where your mouth is, what does that look like going forward? And no offense to the bars, I don't know that program at all, right? I would imagine it's similar to our audits at a bank. They're here to look for mistakes, right? Before somebody like us finds them, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine this is good, accurate information to have. But I would be curious to know if we were to decide to allow the licensing, can we implement in that first year of licensing additional compliance checks? Because you're selling cigarettes and e-cigs all day long, right? And I don't know if that's a police chief question sitting in the, I don't know.
Why? Mayor, council, I can answer from a legal perspective. The statute says, at least once per year. Your ordinance says from time to time, so I think that does give the city flexibility to do that. It would be up to whether the police department has the resources to do that, but it's certainly something that could be done. It's not prohibited, is what I wanted to say.
Would there be any effect on the fact that we wouldn't be choosing to do all compliance checks? That would be I think the question is.
Well, I think that it's reasonable that there would be more than one compliance check because of the failures.
Okay.
I don't have an answer, though, if it somehow create problems for the city if they're only doing 2 checks on the other.
Or one.
Or one. I just wanted to let you know that the license, generally speaking, cannot be approved with any conditions. They get the license. So it wouldn't be approved, you're going to get your license subject to the city doing a compliance check because the city can do them anyway. It's the city's discretion.
So more questioning, Counselor, would be that we're not in any violation. They wouldn't be contingent upon, but it would give us a basis for next year at this time.
Yes. Yep.
If we did 4 compliance checks and they crushed them, we're great. If we did 4 and they didn't, well, we're right back where we started from last year and we're a lot less sympathetic.
Yes.
So that, from a legal standpoint, are we okay in doing something to that matter?
Yeah, because you're just like I said, there's a compliance check failure history, and it's reasonable for the city to want to conduct those compliance checks. And it looks like the city clerk has some comments.
Sure. Kelly?
I just want to add one thing to the comment about something, if there were several compliance checks and they weren't successful, you don't have to wait until the end of a new application is coming forward. Revocation exists in our ordinance, and that could be something that council would decide to take a look at. At the time, there were repeated non-compliance situations, so wouldn't have to wait, is all I just wanted to add.
Thanks, Kelly. That's really good information. And I do want to state too that I did catch the comment that you have 8 employees, and if I heard you correct, all 8 walk to work.
Yes.
That to me is a very big statement. We've said many times as a council, we don't want to make it harder to do business, but we want our businesses to follow the rules. We want them to be part of the community, you know, and for the employees. And I know what it's like when it gets busy, right? I'm sure there's times where it's like the pump's beeping outside, there's a screaming baby, some mom's trying to buy some milk. I mean, we've all been there, but I think just for you, and I will also state one final comment that Sean, 150 speedways as a trainer and a coach, pace of the leader, right? That is a lot of ground to cover, and this is just something that's gonna have to happen between you, between Robin, and then on to the employees, and then talk amongst yourselves, right? It's like, hey, did you hear that Paula got fired, right? We just, I don't know, you guys, I really would, I'm leaning towards making a motion that we would withdraw. I don't know what the,
Reverse.
excuse me. And if I don't get a second, then that gives me my answer. So I'm gonna make a.
Can I intervene first?
Yes,
Yep,
you can.
please.
Our conversation prior to this was that if the thought was that council might reverse, that should be by resolution, which we do not have drafted here. And if that's the direction that council wants to go, would recommend that we bring that up at our next council meetings. I'm just looking for attorney guidance on this because the motion you might be about to make is different than what we were anticipating.
Correct. Mayor, council, because the license was denied by resolution, the general good practice is to adopt another resolution, essentially superseding or repealing that previous resolution. And we don't have one prepared. We have one prepared for the affirming the denial. It could be to direct the city clerk to draft the resolution and bring it back at the next meeting. And that way you could look at every word of the resolution and make sure that it says what you want it to say. Because you're the ones that making a decision.
And the next meeting is July,
Yes.
so. Dan?
But to follow on that, if the, just looking for clarification on that, so no surprises, if the direction from council tonight is to draft a resolution for consideration July 6th, but their current license expires June 30th, they would not be licensed for 6 days in early July.
That's correct.
And Kelly, back to your question, along with Councilmember Liefeld's. If we approve and they do have a violation, we can revoke it at that time.
Ordinance has a process for
Yep.
us to go through just like this.
Yep.
So it would be the same kind of thing where if there was another violation, it would be another likely fine and suspension of the license, and then an invitation for a public hearing if they choose to be heard. Same kind of thing that happened here, and revocation could follow that if desired.
Okay. Councilmember Verichak?
Thank you, Your Honor. So Kelly, just so that I'm clear, so if that did happen and we were to go down that route and there was another violation, timeline in terms of when we would terminate the license would be another 2 weeks until that council meeting or longer?
So once the materials, once the non-compliance happens, then we would notify Speedway again and give them 10 days. They have 10 days to respond to whether or not they want a public hearing. So it depends on when it falls. It's not necessarily going to be tied directly to a council meeting, but we'll plan the public hearing to align with a council meeting. If they accept that, then they would come and speak again. And if they did not accept that, then there would be signature to accept the initial violations. And then if there were additional interest in suspension then, or in revocation, I think we need to follow up on that again after that.
Thank you, Councilmember Verichak, and thank you, Kelly. Councilmember Lawrence?
Thank you, Your Thank you guys for coming in and speaking and everything. Here in the big picture here, it's like you were caught. You're brought to the table, you said you're caught, right? The last 3 years, you just pay the fine. You didn't come in here and say, hey, we screwed up, we paid our fine and whatever. So now we're saying the city, the officers are gonna go and be the keeper of Speedway West to make sure you guys comply. But I don't feel that's the city's job. We already do that, right? And we're only looking at one business now who has failed 3 years in a row, right? How many other tobacco licenses do we have in the city? A lot, right? And this is the only one we're doing. Like, I'm not cold-hearted, I'm not whatever, but I just, there's an issue here, and we gotta get to the bottom of it. The fact that, oh, someone went rogue, okay, but again, that's an issue, right? And it's finally to the point, it's serious enough, like, oh my goodness, we're gonna lose out on 40%. Why weren't we addressing this a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, right? And that's where I'm at. Just wanted to put it out there for the record.
Thank you, Councilmember Lawrence. Councilmember Beck?
I'm conflicted. If my face didn't show it, we live maybe a mile. I see your employees walk to and from Speedway every morning, and my husband, to my dismay, loves Speedway. So I see all the charges on my statement. I don't personally buy tobacco or alcohol or a whole bunch from Speedway myself, but I have a really hard time. And I thank you for coming here today, but I think I'm going to echo Councilmember Lawrence's points of why didn't you come last year or 2 years ago to kind of have a public hearing on your suspensions. If you want to answer,
I wasn't at that store when these last violations happened. Otherwise, I would have responded. I was very quick to respond to this because I was in charge, and I actually care about these things happening. I want to be in compliance. I want to have a great team. I want to make sure we're keeping a safe community, right? Because we have a school 2 blocks down the road. I'm a mother. I would be so upset if my kid had access to tobacco products, and it's a personal thing for me to make sure that no one at my store is selling underage tobacco. I don't know if you want to.
I mean, I think to further that point, I think that's a good question. We're here and now, we're deep into it. You know, ultimately, I could have come to any of those council meetings, sat here, said, I'm sorry, we accept the fine, and I probably should have did that. You know, we accepted the fine, we were wrong. But I think you bring up a very good point. You brought up a very good point that I should have taken the time to come down here, say, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do better. Yeah, and we did make changes, but out of respect for the community, it's probably something that I should have done, so I take responsibility for that.
Appreciate that. Along those lines, that's our job too, is making people accountable, and finding someone $300, $500, or $1,000, and just the continuation of paying that, that's where I'm coming from. I mean, we want to give people chances, and we've given numerous amounts of chances. I understand, Robin, you're a newer manager, but still those processes should have been in line all along. And now it comes to you, and you want to be that appropriate leader, and we're at our wits' end. We want this to be a safe for our community. It is by a school. It is frequently used. But our hands are tied. I mean, we're not tied. We appreciate you coming in and expressing your hearing to us, but these are tough decisions. And I would say, I'm possibly going to say that I would maybe allow it, but the next time there isn't going to be a second chance.
And I agree.
And I'm even wondering, can we do more of a deeper fine, or what, I mean, can we put them on a really tight string? Or does that have to stay within our ordinance? Can we do that just for one?
Mayor, council, it's you approve the license,
Yeah.
and.
That's the ordinance.
Yeah, the council cannot attach any conditions to that license approval.
Councilmember Pemble?
I guess my question not only goes to the manager, but to the district person, is, okay, pay the fine and just move on? No. That's just not the way to operate. I understand the store manager is new, but still, as the district manager, you say you're responsible for 150 stores? How many of those stores are in the same situation, of your stores is in the same situation as we are tonight with this store?
0.
Okay, so have you looked closely and followed what's going on at your store here in Hastings? My question is, the fine is the fine, but we're at the point of saying no, and that's the question. You still have not, in my mind, really provided a real honest evaluation about how you have responded to the situations that have occurred in the last 4 years in your store.
I think that's a valid point. And it's not that we don't have violations, we just haven't had any that have been this extreme. We've made operational decisions to put things in place, but more importantly, none of the people that were involved in those violations, unfortunately, are still with us, from a store leader, because they weren't the right person. They weren't following the policies. They weren't implementing a culture where that's a zero tolerance policy. We put a lot of time and development into Robin. That's not her first store that she's had. We brought her down, promoted her, because she's the right person to change the culture of the store, to develop people the right way, and to make sure that we limit as much risk as possible because she's doing things by the book.
So what you're saying is that having all of these corrections put in place, the store is 100% better than what it was at the last violation?
Outside of an employee using their own personal ID on them or finding an alternative ID, it's impossible to sell to anybody that's purchasing alcohol and tobacco.
So, but in the long part of this, you're arguing that you've made all these, your employees have failed in all of these different areas, and now we're down to the penalty, and you think that it's good enough to get out from underneath that penalty, and you're pleading your case, but the penalty stands, and if we say, no, we're not going to take the penalty, and we give you your license, then we're like in square one again? No. I mean, to me, it's like you're at the penalty framework, and you're trying to say, no, we're going to back down. And it's like, no, wait a minute. This is really a serious issue. This council has to deal with this. We have like 40 other retail establishments in this community that have tobacco licenses, and they're not all here because they're in jeopardy of losing their license. It's you who is here in jeopardy of losing the license for the Speedway. My point is, this has to follow through, and if we're not in a point that here's the law, here's the ordinance, and this council has to follow through. And I would make that motion at this point that we deny your renewal of a tobacco license for 26-27. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is a motion on the table. Councilmember Lightfoot.
So this sounds a lot like we're all, as parents, yelling at you for something you did in the basement. I think about this if, when we're looking at new management, it wouldn't be much different as a new owner, right? All new management comes in, things change. I was really set on, and I don't smoke. I would be fine if you didn't have your license to sell tobacco, but I'm sorry, I think to me, you implemented the ID scan. Can you tell me, Sean, when that ID scan was implemented in Hastings?
It was before, it would have been after it was after the third violation. July 2024.
Because the October 2025, Robin, you were there, but the rogue employee used somebody else's ID.
That they left behind from getting their ID scanned to buy tobacco.
Yeah. Yeah, I won't provide the second. I do see steps being made regarding implementing the ID scan. The piece too, that IDs are now to be put in the vault, not left behind the counter, things like that. Those are all things that I do with, my business as well. We have things in place because employees are human and mistakes are going to happen. Lots of mistakes in this case. So I'm not going to provide a second, but I do feel as though they have implemented something that should remove this. That's a personal opinion, but.
I'll second the denial.
Okay, there's a second to the motion. Councilmember Verichon.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I make a comment? Boy, this is tougher than I anticipated that it would be. I really appreciated my colleagues, Councilmember Pemble and Councilmember Lawrence, points. The other thing that we talk a lot about as a council is that we invest in our city staff. We trust them, we work closely with them, we appreciate their expertise. And another part of this that really doesn't sit well with me is that our Hastings Police Department, 2 chiefs now, have put in extensive effort trying to get this information, trying to get you guys where you needed to be, and we're still failing a lot of those different checks. In addition, our city attorney, our city clerk has made a recommendation to us, and I have to say it leaves me incredibly uncomfortable to, as a city council member, not support the motion that is being put forth by city staff that I trust and rely on to help with a lot of these decisions as well. Just a real quick point of clarification. So for the employees that do walk to work, the implication that you made is that because 40% of your revenue sales come from tobacco, what I really heard you saying is that if the license was denied tonight and you were not able to make those sales, that these employees would immediately be put into a hardship. And so, Sean, as the manager for these employees, is there a plan or is there something in place where management is able to protect their jobs or protect the hours or the wages that they have come to count on through no fault of their own? I don't believe these gentlemen's names are on here for failing compliance checks. So how would something like that work?
Well, it wouldn't be a right-away thing. Obviously, anybody in good standing, we would do our best. We have the other Hastings store to try to accommodate that, but budgets are budgets from a labor standpoint in order to remain profitable. 40% of sales, yes, but it's also a driver for every other category that we have in the store, whether that's gas, whether that's vault. And just in the 7-day suspension that we had, sales dropped 36% across the entire store. So you're going from a a $7,000 a store day to three and a half. And if you're making, on average, 20% inside margin, it's not very much. But, I mean, my people would have my commitment to find any avenue possible to make sure that they're good to go. And they have paychecks coming and they have jobs. These are my people, like, that's my responsibility.
Any other discussion, council, or is the motion? Okay.
Just
Councilman, go ahead.
for clarification, since there at one point have been talk about a potential motion, and then there was a motion, just want to clarify what that motion is, please.
Okay.
And I also heard a request for a roll call on it.
Councilmember Pemble.
The motion was to approve the resolution affirming the denial of the 2026-2027 tobacco license for Speedway Store 4486 1390 South Frontage Road.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Pemble. Councilmember Verichoff, did you have another question? No? Okay. There is a motion, that is the motion, and a second. Okay? No other discussion, council? I will have clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Pemble.
Yes.
Councilmember Lawrence.
Yes.
Councilmember Liefeld.
No.
Councilmember Beck.
Yes.
Councilmember Verichoff.
At the end of the day, we're talking about selling cigarettes to kids. Yes.
Mayor Fassbender.
Yes. Thank you, clerk. Thank you, council. Council, or Kelly, did you have something to say, or just your microphone's on? Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. All right, at this point, council, we'll be going into a closed meeting pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.05 subdivision 3B for attorney-client privilege communication for the City Hall renovation. First, we'll do reports and announcements, and then we'll go into closed session. Afterwards, we will briefly return to open session to formally adjourn the meeting. Council, any announcements? Okay. The city council, oops, sorry. I'm so sorry. Announcements coming up. Summer rec program at Levy Park, Wednesday, June 17th. Story time in the park, authors showcase, a partnership with Pleasant Hill Library. Thursday, June 18th, music and market with MT Pockets and Loose Change, Soul and Swing and Pop, supported by Ruth and George Doffing Charitable Fund. Saturday, June 21st, Make Music Day with a variety of live music, food trucks, music trivia, and gift card giveaways. Tuesday, June 23rd, Comedy in the Park with John Bush. Thursday, June 25th, Music and Market with Taylor's Version, tribute to Taylor Swift, supported by George and Ruth Doffing Charitable Fund. Thursday, July 2nd, Music and Market with Rumble Seat, tribute to John Mellencamp, supported by Ruth and George Doffing Fund. Rec, Art, and Police is on Wednesday, June 24th at Consemius Park with Squirt Gun Art, Global Games, free activities, lunch, and giveaways, supported by SC Toys, Country Financial, Hastings Lions Club, Hastings Family Service, Community Ed, and Hastings Prescott Art Council. Happy birthday late this month to Councilmember Beck. City offices will be closed Friday, June 19th for observance of Juneteenth, and Friday, July 3rd in observance of Independence Day. Upcoming meetings, Tuesday, June 17th, 7 p.m., Heritage Preservation Commission. Wednesday, June 17th, the Parks and Rec Commission has been canceled. And Thursday, June 18th, 6:30 PM, Public Safety Advisory Commission. Monday, June 22nd, 7 PM, there's a Parks and Recreation Committee meeting, along with a 7 PM Planning Commission meeting. Monday, June 29th, 7 PM, Operations Committee. And Monday, July 6th, a City Council meeting.